Let's get more now from Washington Post columnist Eugene Scott. Good morning, Eugene.
Good morning. How are you?
Let's start with the shutdown here. The president says, I didn't fold, but I don't play poker. Was this a fold?
Absolutely. The president wanted $5.7 billion for his border wall. He didn't get it, and there's a good chance that he will never get it. Democrats are not on board with it, and an increasing number of Republicans are not on board with it.
So what happens over the next 21 days? Because we're really back to where we started when the shutdown began.
I think what will be most interesting is watching what happens between Republicans in the next 21 days. We've already seen the number of Republican lawmakers voting with Democrats, or at least pushing back against Trump. And one of the reasons we're seeing that is because the Republican voters are pushing back against Trump. And it's very possible that they will go to him and say, look, we want border security just like you, but this wall we can't get support for.
Has Nancy Pelosi managed to keep Democrats united through this? Is that solidarity going to hold?
I think so, especially on this issue. I mean, even before Nancy Pelosi became the House Speaker, Democratic lawmakers were not supporting this border wall, obviously because their bases weren't supporting this border wall. So this wasn't as hard of a sell for Nancy Pelosi as it was for Donald Trump.
Is there something interesting about the dynamic of Nancy Pelosi being the leader of Congress here, and the fact that the president, one, doesn't name call her, has some level, seems to have some level of respect for her? I mean, is there an interesting dynamic between the two of them that she was able to make this happen?
I think there is a very interesting dynamic. If you recall, after the midterm elections, when Democrats were fighting about whether or not Nancy Pelosi should be the House Speaker, Trump was supportive of Nancy Pelosi being the House Speaker for a few reasons. And he tweeted about this. One, he really does respect her. She's been doing this for more than 30 years. And he needs a villain. He needs a rival. He just didn't realize that she was going to beat him, and beat him this badly. The reality, though, is if he wants to keep his base, which he is losing, he's going to have to find ways to beat Pelosi at her own game. And this first battle, he just wasn't able to do that.
Meanwhile, we've got 800,000 workers going back to work, getting back pay. But is there a long-term cost of this shutdown?
Absolutely. I mean, one, we know as of the 25th, it was $6 billion to the economy. That's more than the $5.7 billion. And the long-term cost, I think, that Trump has to worry about is his reputation. He's already losing support. And most people, a lot of people, should I say, will not be getting back pay. Security guards, janitors, cafeteria workers.
Those contractors.
Yes,
they
federal contractors, yeah.
And we've seen people, I was reporting earlier this week, we've seen people who voted for Trump who aren't going to vote for him in 2020 because he's running on a campaign called Promises Kept. He hasn't kept his promise. The border wall is not happening as of now. Mexico's definitely not paying for it, and things could get worse.
Was this move by the president in getting us to at least reopen the government a response to what was going on in the country, or was there some other reason? Did he know that he was losing the base on this one?
I think it was a response to the midterm 2018 elections. He did not win. He did not do well. We know that not only was there a blue wave, there certainly was not a red wave. And there were people who were upset with him. And some of his closest advisors, conservatives in talk radio, were saying that you have to stick to what you said you would do. And so he really doubled down on this idea that there was just no support for. We don't even have conservative think tanks backing Build the Wall. So obviously people outside of his tribe weren't going to get on board with it.
And ground stoppages at the airports might have had something to do with it, too.
Absolutely.
Eugene Scott, Washington Post, thank you.
Thanks for having me.